Welcome to your mini masterclass on the topic of why the future belongs to everyone. I'm here with Marina Gorbis, our Executive Director here at the Institute for the Future. Marina, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this masterclass with us. You've been professionally future forecasting for many years. You've been leading 20 years, wow. And you've been leading the Institute for the Future for more than a decade. And you've really been the visionary behind the Institute's mission to help bring future thinking to the entire planet. Can you share a little bit of that mission and why it matters?
Yeah, I think there's two really important reasons why it's important for everybody to think about the future and learn the skills of future thinking. One is to help people imagine possibilities, imagine what the future might look like. And the second one is simply to make better choices, make better decisions. We're living in a pretty incredible time. Everything around us is changing. Our media, our technologies, how we work, how we learn, the climate around us is changing. And so it's an incredible time to make some choices about what do we want the future to be? What kind of future do we want to live in? And we don't want that to be decided by a few politicians or a few people, tech gurus in Silicon Valley. It's something that we need to all participate in because we don't want to be living in somebody else's future.
No, that's perfect. We don't want to live in someone else's future. We want to live in our future, the future we help make. But as we've seen in our research here at the Institute, most people don't have the time or interest or skills to think about the far future. Very few people do it. Most people are focused on the short term, the near term, and making decisions that benefit us in the short term. But you have recently been speaking quite a lot about why short-termism is a really serious challenge to overcome, both for individuals and society.
Yeah, and I understand that people need to make decisions right now and they need to make some choices today. But you make better choices if you put them in a larger context, if you can connect the future, the past, and the present. So to make better decisions, to make more resilient decisions, to be a more resilient human, what you need to understand is how do we get to this problem in the first place? What are the big forces that led us to today? And then think about how are these forces evolving in the future, so whatever choices you make today are connected to something bigger, because otherwise you're just going to be making these decisions randomly, and oftentimes you'll be making decisions that in the long term are not the best decisions. So there is this concept of temporal bandwidth, that to make more resilient, to make better decisions, you need to connect the past, the present, and the future. So oftentimes I think of myself as much as a futurist, but also as a historian, because it's really important to understand that past and connect it to the future. And luckily there's been a lot of studies showing that organizations that think about the future ultimately do better. They make better decisions. And just recently, the BBC, their headline was that short-termism is the greatest threat to humanity. And I agree.
It's interesting you mentioned that. We saw that there was a scientific paper that came out that showed that organizations that use future thinking practices really systematically, they have more profits, they grow faster, but even on an individual level, by being able to connect your past with your present, with your future, I think it helps us all feel like we have just a little more agency.
Yeah, we can place our decisions into some larger context, and I do think that it allows you to make better choices and make better decisions, more informed decisions. And after taking this course, this will become, I know it kind of may sound difficult, but it's a kind of practice you develop that as you go around and do things around the world in your life, you can see kind of signs of the future and you can connect it to your own decisions.
Well, that reminds me of something that you have famously said, which is that when it comes to the future, we are all immigrants to the future. How did you come up with that metaphor, and how does that help us get more comfortable with this whole future thinking process?
Sure. Well, I'm an immigrant myself, so this concept is very close to me. And when I first came to this country, and like all the immigrants, when you go into a new land, you have to kind of be open-minded. You have to learn a new language. You have to learn a new way of doing things. You have to observe. And that's kind of what the future is like. It maybe is a new land. It may seem foreign. It may be unfamiliar. But if you practice that immigrant mindset, which is you're open to new possibilities, you're looking at signals, you're connecting these things, then you become more native in that foreign land.
I love that. It makes it feel so much more kind of down to earth, that this is a kind of mindset that you bring to things that are strange and unfamiliar, whether it's a new place or a new time. You have written so much about the future, and our students are very lucky. They're going to be able to read an excerpt from your book, The Nature of the Future, and some of your essays as well. And I often, when I teach this class, I ask students what their most inspiring quote from all the readings they've done. And many of my students pick a quote from one of your essays, The Future is a Way of Life. And so I wanted to ask you about this quote and why you think it resonates with so many people. You wrote that the most wondrous thing about the future is that there are no facts about the future. No facts. So why do you think that inspires so many people?
It gives people a sense of something that they can create. It's not something that's given. It gives people a sense of agency, right? We have facts about the past. We have a lot of historical data and evidence. And I think that's important. As I said, the future is connected to the past. But it also doesn't mean that things will continue as they are. And a lot of times they change. And so there's a lot of agency in thinking that this is not something given. That's something that we can shape, we can create.
Yeah, and I guess if there are no facts, then you can't be wrong yet.
Exactly. Everybody is right.
Yeah, right in the sense that something might be possible. And maybe if there is a change we're hoping is possible, or an invention that we believe is urgently needed, that as long as there are no facts telling us that it's not possible or that it can't be done, we can still play a part.
Yeah, and I think it empowers people to think about it. Okay, if I want that kind of future, what do I need to do to get there?
Yes, and that comes right back to our foresight, insight, action cycle, where all of this is for the purpose of taking action today. Well, this is great. Thank you so much for bringing these words of wisdom to our students. Any last advice to our students as they continue on this journey of becoming future thinkers?
I guess my advice is also to have fun. It's a wondrous experience to be, and it's kind of a great luxury to be able to think about the future and to get that sense that you can participate in building that future. So just have fun, enjoy it, learn a lot in the process, and also create community of others. Don't just keep it to yourself. The best kind of future thinking is when you participate with other people and you talk about it with other people.
Well, speaking of which, we're going to be inviting you to join us in our Coursera community on the discussion forums. Hope you'll jump in and give some reaction and feedback to our students.
Would love to. Look forward to it.
Oh, well, thank you, Marina. And I will see all of you on our discussion forums to talk about this masterclass and everything else we've covered in this course.